And yes, it has dented Aryan Khan for 26 days to be in jail is a very unfortunate situation where you want truth to prevail and justice to be given on the premise of what are the outlines for the NCB. Has the NCB in the past done a good job in getting rid of drugs and the supply chain? Yes, they have. Have there been cases where they have botched up? One has seen this particular one. Is anyone insulating wrong officers? Absolutely not. You know that there has been no political interference. If at all, the separate committee which came into being is the one which actually investigated and has given this clean chit not just to Aryan but to 5 others too. So the point is, the endeavor of the Narcotics Bureau has only to be to get rid of the supply chain. We as citizens need to realize 2 takeaways from this case. One, whenever there's a high profile case, we are jeopardizing also the lives of the people concerned, which it has been a media trial, has been a political slugfest too on certain
No, one second. You keep calling this a media trial, madam.
As if,
Madam Shaina NC, you're calling this a media trial. How does that happen? There are leaks. Madam, one second. No. There are leaks coming from NCB officers to beat correspondents. A journalist gets a good story, he gets masala. He will obviously put it out. Yeah, Clyde Castro wants to come in and counter what Shaina is saying. Clyde, go for it.
Yeah. No, Rahul, now please give me some time. I'm patiently listening to everybody. Just a request you give me time. See, the point here is very clear. If you go back and you recall the visuals shown on your channel and many other channels, the night when Aryan Khan was actually dragged and some other kids were dragged by 2 people who had nothing to do with the NCB.
Correct.
There was a selfie of Gosavi that came out, then Manish Bhanushali. And that's when the wheels started rolling and people started realizing that these 2 people don't fit in this whole puzzle here. And when doing background search, not just political parties, but even the media personnel, they did a background search and Bhanushali turned out to be a BJP functionary. Okay, and Gosavi had some criminal antecedents. So this whole thing then began to play out, saying that what is going on here. See, you have one officer. See, Shaina, when you were talking, I did not interject. So please have decency. It's not about you and me. Please. It's not about you and me. Okay. Now let me finish. The point here is very simple. One officer comes into the NCB. See, NCB since its inception has done a fantastic job. Their job, like you said, is to take care of international drug racket. The Narcotics Control Bureau, okay, has to do that. The small things have to be done by the government here in Maharashtra. Now the BJP was supporting Wankhede, all his spokesperson except for Shaina. I'm happy that Shaina was saying that this is wrong what was happening. But the other BJP spokesperson was supporting Sabir Wankhede all the time. And that's what was happening. So now
it almost seemed as if at that time, Shaina, that the system was egging Wankhede on, respond to the direct charge made by Clyde Castro.
Let me finish, please.
Yes. Go on, Clyde.
No, Judge, can you give me 30 seconds, please? I want to just finish.
Go on.
Yeah, I want to finish. What I'm trying to tell you here is that one officer came in, okay, started parading all film stars, okay, and there was accusation that it's a media trial. Let me tell you why this media trial happened. NCB officers were sending feelers to the media, and people, friends of ours in the media were telling us, kuch bada hone wala hai Shah Rukh Khan ke saath mein. So they were sending these feelers out, parading big film stars like Deepika Padukone. What is the outcome of all that till today? There's no end result to all these film stars who were paraded inside and outside the NCB office. So there was one officer who was believing in sensationalism. BJP was backing it. Now they cannot absolve themselves. They cannot say we had nothing to do with it. Now after it became such a huge thing, the investigation committee has kind of cleared Aryan Khan, but it cannot be absolved. They need to.
Okay, so you've spoken for 30 seconds. Let Shaina NC respond to the charge that BJP supporters and leaders were egging on the likes of Sabir Wankhede. It almost seemed as if it was orchestrated, all these Bollywood stars being paraded with very flimsy evidence and being put through this public tamasha. Shaina.
Nobody absolved or was on a witch hunt. if at all, this case was an independent probe of the Narcotics Bureau. That they got it wrong, you have to also acknowledge that the government of the day set up this independent panel and has had the courage of conviction to not interfere with it, and the clean chit has come to Aryan and 5 others, which we applaud. What did I say at the beginning of the show? We must not be on a judgment trial. We must not be targeting people just because we believe that this is Shah Rukh Khan's son or somebody else. Tomorrow it could be any of our children that are caught in this web. We need to get to the big fish, which is the supply chain, as has been highlighted by Rajji. And obviously there need to be changes. There need to be changes in the law, but there need to also be acknowledged that independent agencies have to work devoid of any political interference. And the Narcotics Bureau has also done some phenomenal work in the past. They may have got this case wrong, for which the officer concerned is also being pulled up, and that too, there is no political interference in that. That is going as per an independent agency which has investigated this case. My limited point being that today we need to understand that we cannot jeopardize the life of an Aryan Khan or even an ABC, whoever the child be, or we have to have a more compassionate approach.
Okay, so you have to accept, Clyde, that at the least the NCB has accepted its sins, omissions, commissions, and is now seeking to address it. China NC makes the point that the government wants this to happen, which is why they're doing it, even though it is embarrassing to the NCB in the way that it is.
Rahul, see, I want to clear this once again. The NCB has done a fantastic job, and just because of one officer, we cannot cast aspersions on the whole organization. We are maintaining that. The point here is that why did the government let it linger for so many months? Even the NCB, for that matter, why did they let it linger and allow this officer to go on and on for so long? They should have nipped it in the bud right then if they knew what was happening. See, my point is very simple. It is there for everybody to see that the BJP was supporting Samir Wankhede. Samir Wankhede was parading all these film stars. He tried to make like a huge big show out of this whole thing. So the government should have come in much earlier. The NCB should have taken action much earlier. Having said that, better late than never. But now that they've transferred him and everything, what is the action that they are taking right now? Suddenly, after that, the last week or so, when Aryan was kind of allowed to go clean. After that, what is the action? People do not know what is happening. Now we are doing this show, we are talking about it, but what is the action taken on this particular officer? People need to know, the country needs to know.
Okay, I want to go across to Satish Maneshinde, one of Mumbai's leading advocates, also closely involved with the Khan family in this case from the time when Aryan was taken in by the NCB to the clean chit that is now being given. We're looking at the questioning of Aryan Khan by the NCB, the charges being dropped. What, according to you, are the key lessons? How do we ensure, whether it's a Riya Chakravarti, a Deepika Padukone or an Aryan Khan, how do we ensure that this doesn't happen again?
Well, I wouldn't like to speak in isolation as far as Aryan is concerned. But in all my cases, particularly in Riya Chakravarti, as well as Aryan's case, there is no evidence of any nature found. There is no material or anything seized from either of them. And in spite of that, they had to go through this rigmarole. And ultimately, probably because of the hue and cry that was made in the media, the government decided to set up a SIT and the Vigilance Committee who inquired into the incident. And they have now come out with a report filed before the court. So it will not be appropriate for me to comment on the report that is filed before the court till the court accepts it in toto. Be that as it may, the same team of set of officers in 2020, right from the time Riya Chakravarti was picked up and arrested, they made a hue and cry that the entire Bollywood is engaged in consumption of drugs, and then it is a heaven for people connected with drugs, which was totally uncalled for. And in fact, a large number of stars were called, paraded, taken to so many places for investigations, one office to another. Nothing came out of it. So I feel that apart from what has happened in Aryan's case, the other cases in which these set of officers were involved in the investigations should be opened up, a thorough inquiry should be made. Apart from the action that is being taken now, additional action should be taken against them so that such officers do not bring a bad name to the entire industry or to the population as a whole.
Okay. How has, if you take, for example, someone like an Aryan, how has his life changed as a consequence? Because what I'm concerned about is at a young, impressionable age, if you're kept behind bars or in custody for a month, you know, it does tend to scar you, and then coming, even though you've now got a clean sheet, but coming back into society, do you think that's a big problem as well? Not just with Aryan, but with anybody who's put through this kind of, public humiliation, embarrassment of being taken in by the NCB. How do you cope with that?
Any person who is arrested by any law enforcing agency without any evidence goes through the same situation as Riya Chakravarti and others have gone through. One thing that becomes strikingly important in these issues is that the media pounces on them time and again and brings a bad name to the entire industry, which is uncalled for. Apart from this, you must see that Riya Chakravarti was 25 or 26 when she was arrested, and she had to go through a hell lot of trouble in spite of the fact that no drugs were found, no evidence was found. All that she did was fall in love with a guy who consumed drugs, and therefore it casts upon the individual's mind and the psyche for all times to come. Imagine a person going through a jail sentence or a jail imprisonment for 27 to 28 days pending bail. It was lucky that both Aryan as well as Riya Chakravarti moved the High Court immediately, and they were successful in getting an order of bail, particularly because the judges saw that there was no evidence in both the cases and ultimately granted bail. Because whatever you may say, the charge sheet that has been filed or the complaint that is filed in respect of Aryan Khan and Riya Chakravarti are a total variance. In fact, Riya Chakravarti should also get the same kind of treatment as anybody else has got in Aryan's case.
Oh, most certainly. And this question of the media coverage being raised against Sahil, I just want to point out to all our viewers that if you saw, for example, India Today's coverage of the Aryan Khan case, it was way more circumspect than some of the over-the-top pronouncements in some of our rival networks. And we were questioning, even when the investigation was on, rather than join a mob frenzy, the quality of evidence against Aryan Khan, and several of the disclosures which became very embarrassing for the NCB later were actually uncovered by Sahil and his team.
Well, Rahul, you have to understand one thing, what Mr. Manish Shinde was mentioning. All this started even when Aryan Khan was released on bail. In fact, if you look at the bail order given by the Bombay High Court, it clearly mentions that the Narcotics Control Bureau, despite keeping Aryan Khan for so many days in the custody, could not find out any conspiracy angle to the theory which they were trying to portray in front of the court. The High Court also pointed out that the WhatsApp chats cannot be put forward as an evidence, and exactly the same judgment was given, the bail order was given at the time of Riya Chakravarti. So it looked like that the Narcotics Control Bureau did not learn any lesson. They started questioning the whole investigation only when Minister Nawab Malik started taking the press conference. In fact, I properly remember when India Today did the interview with Prabhakar Sahil, one of the witnesses in this particular case. He raised the question over the whole investigation. That time, the Narcotics Control Bureau took the press conference in support of Sabir Wankhede. Sabir Wankhede either was misleading the Narcotics Control Bureau top brasses, or they did not think that it will go out of hand. But Nawab Malik relentlessly continued with the press conferences, and finally they had to put this SIT on and also conduct the vigilance inquiry. What it looked like is that since last, especially from 2020, when this whole thing was made up as if that the whole Bollywood is under the arms of narcotic substances, the whole 1 year, Narcotics Control Bureau did not look into the investigations made by Sabir Wankhede. And now what is being raised is that because the bail order of Riya Chakravarti and that of Aryan Khan are almost similar. Even in Riya Chakravarti's case, the High Court has pointed out that there was nothing found on Riya Chakravarti, only merely on the basis of WhatsApp chats she could not be kept inside and that's why she should be released on the bail. The same thing has been mentioned even in Aryan Khan's bail order. It clearly shows that what kind of investigation the Narcotics Control Bureau was doing. It clearly depended on the whims and fancies and the discretion of the Narcotics Control Bureau officers. If they thought that on the basis of WhatsApp chats, that is what even the Vigilance Inquiry has mentioned. Even that is what even the SIT today is mentioning. Merely on the basis of WhatsApp chats, you cannot call somebody for the questioning, and that's what happened during Riya Chakravarti case. Right from Deepika Padukone to everybody was called merely only on the basis of WhatsApp chats, and similar thing happened even in Aryan Khan case. And now they have accepted that that was the wrong thing.
Sanjana, John, just 1 second, client. You spend a lot of time in Mumbai social set. How are these cases being perceived? Is there a sense of vindication and redemption now that the NCB is acknowledging its errors, or do people think that it's too late? You've already ruined a young man's life, you've scarred Riya, you've put Deepika Padukone through the coals, and now to say sorry and to say that we botched up doesn't really make any sense. Clyde, I will come back to you in a moment. Let Sanjana speak, please. Sanjana.
Absolutely, Rahul. What's really sad in India, we all believe, I think the general rule is you are innocent unless proven otherwise. But we are not seeing that when it comes to all these cases that have been happening. And it's not just the person that they're tarnishing, it's a family. The entire family is going through this persecution through the prosecution. And a lot of the panelists were talking about the media trial, but the media goes with what is being given to them. And when a prosecuting agency is giving the wrong information to the media, it's really the target person, here, the young mind or the young person who was targeted, his life. You can never go back and change that. Not one thing can be changed. And no matter what they say, I think in the court of public opinion, this is something which is going down as very harsh and definitely something that should change. It's not just about the rules, but it's about the way a person is put and I would say prosecuted, persecuted. This has to change.
So, do you think on the back of these cases, the NCB will change its ways, will start to act more responsibly and not go after these sensational public displays, leaking WhatsApp chats, making it all public just so that the officer gets his share of glory or supposed glory? Mr. Manishindi, I think you're on mute. If you could unmute yourself and speak.
I'm not sure.
Yes, go on.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you well.
Yeah. I'm not sure whether the law enforcing agencies will change their track, because time and again the Supreme Court as well as the High Courts have, castigated the law enforcing agencies. In spite of that, information is being leaked selectively. Information is not only in the central agencies, it happens even in the state agencies. Even if you see in Maharashtra, it keeps happening time and again. It happens all over the country. So I don't think these law enforcing agencies change unless there's some hard rule being brought on them and hard punishments are taken, punishments are rendered to such officers who leak out such information.
Satish Manichande for joining me. Thank you very much. Clyde Castro, do you think things will change? Do you think NCB's learnt a lesson? They'll be more circumspect next time round?
No, Rahul, things have to change. They don't have a choice. I'll tell you something, what Sahil was saying, that's what I was trying to get your attention, is what Mr. Nawab Malik kept saying from day one. And the NCB came out and took a press conference against him, and said that whatever he's saying is wrong. Then the BJP jumped into the bandwagon and said, what Mr. Malik is saying wrong. Today he stands vindicated. Mr. Malik stands vindicated. So what I'm trying to tell you here is, again I repeat, NCB has done a good job and now they need to go further and set an example. And things have to change. They cannot, they keep saying that the big fish has to be caught, big fish has to be caught. You cannot catch the big fish by, detaining innocents. Detaining people who have not done anything wrong. You have to go for the big fish if you want to catch the big fish. That's the whole point. So things have to change. The NCB does not have a choice, and the central government has to make sure that the NCB that comes under their wing needs to start taking these actions and clear up the system. Otherwise, we are heading for disaster. Because one officer comes and tries to change the whole narrative about everything that is happening in a particular organization, that sets the ball rolling in the wrong direction.
B.V. Kumar, do you think things will change as NCB been shamed enough to learn a lesson, or do you think it could happen again? One rogue officer, ungoverned, unrestrained, uncontrolled, could again run amok?
No, it should not happen, and it will not happen, because one person should be set as an example. In this case, the vigilance inquiry is already there, he has been transferred, but the transfer itself is not a punishment, because a central government servant can be transferred anywhere in India. That's not treated as a punishment, because the government has the right to transfer anybody anywhere. A proper vigilance inquiry should be done, and for the whole mess up he has done and brought disgrace to the organization, he should be punished under the conduct rules.
Shaina, and see, that's an important point that Mr. Kumar makes, that make him out as an example. Like he tried to make Aryan an example, ensure that Samir Wankhede is made out to be an example, so that others get the message that you can't get away with this. This is not okay.
My concluding point would be just this, that is a cleanup required? Absolutely. Do we need to get to the big fish? Absolutely. Has there been good jobs done in the past which need to be praised? Yes. Are there some wrong doings which one has seen in this particular case? Yes. Should there be political insulation? None at all, for nobody whatsoever. Let the law take its course, let the NCB act independently, and if an officer has wronged, he too must be reprimanded, because we cannot play with the lives of either children or people in society who are just victims of a situation which is unfortunate because of lapses in our entire system, be it legislative or be it judicial bureaucracy.
Raj Chingappa, you spoke to so many officers in the NCB. Do you think the agency has learnt a lesson? Is any institutional framework being instituted to ensure that this doesn't repeat, or are you afraid that this could happen again?
No, I did speak to the Director General, Mr. Pradhan, and he was very clear, and he's instructed his officers that they're no more to go after consumers, but to go after the big fish. He has also asked the government to beef up the NCB staff. Currently, it's about 1,200. He's asked for 1,800 more people. That's almost, 2.5 times the size that the current size. And to also get the state police trained in narcotics, catching and things like that, because they're a very important component. Very importantly, also, I think, Rahul, that what the other big lesson is that we have to stop what is happening in terms of, and the only way to do that is to decriminalize consumption of certain kinds of drugs, particularly ganja and charas, and maybe some.
Now that's another debate, Raj. You've just sparked a debate which could take up the next 30 minutes.
Right. I think that's very important, that we need to move in that direction, so that people like Aryan Khan and Riya Chakrabarti, the big example, there are thousands of people that are languishing. Every year 70,000 people are arrested for this kind of thing. And they don't have any recourse as
Oh, that's true. They can't hire Satish Mane Shinde and the others and get out on bail. What happened?
And therefore, I think apart from reforming NCB, you have to reform the law. What drug addicts require is treatment, not criminalization. They are just like you and I, who are suffering from a particular disease. So you could be hypertension, you could be obese. Just because you eat, as a doctor told me, another jamun, you can't knock a person who's with diabetes. The same thing. Why are you criminalizing a sickness?
So what
you need to treat the sickness, and only doctors should treat.
In the Riya Chakrabarti case was unfortunate. What's happened in the Aryan case is unfortunate. It's happened once too often. So I'm not 100% certain and convinced that things will be hunky-dory from here, but I hope that they will be, because to have this kind of a public spectacle play itself out is very unfortunate. You need solid evidence, you need to go after the big fish, the international drug mafia, not go after consumers, even if they are proven to be consumers, not to go after individual consumers. That's not what the NCB is supposed to do. That's not their mandate or their tasking. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm glad we could have this conversation, because so much time was spent on the Aryan Khan story. So I thought we should dedicate some time to speak about the fact that he's been given a clean chit, the fact that the NCB is now trying to institute reforms, which we will track in the hope that a better framework emerges, which has some guardrails, and ensure that Samir Wankhede is given exemplary punishment. You can't just go rogue in this fashion and think you'll just get away. When we come back on the other side of a quick break, the Moosewala murder probe unravels. More gangsters, sharpshooters are nabbed. Details coming up on the other side.
Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today, for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now.
It's been more than 100 days since the Russian invasion of Ukraine started. Severodonetsk is now the focus of intense fighting. Located approximately 140 kilometers from the southern Russian border, it is one of the largest cities in Donbass. The city is now seeing one of the fiercest fightings, and the situation might be getting worse for Ukraine. But why is Russia pounding this city? Does it have any strategic importance? The city falls under the administration of Ukraine's Luhansk province. The city is a known industrial hub. That aside, there is strategic relevance to Severodonetsk. The city is part of Donbass. Putin aims to liberate Donbass. And by liberation, he refers to invading and controlling Ukraine's eastern regions of Donetsk and Luhansk. So, if Severodonetsk falls, Russia will have complete control of the Luhansk province. Russia is pressing harder to invade the region before a more western supply of weapons comes. In 2014, the region was also captured by Russian forces briefly, but Ukraine had regained control eventually. Russia shifted its focus to this city after failing to capture Ukraine's capital city of Kyiv. Reports of heavy shelling have come in, and some experts are even saying that it could become the next Mariupol.
The Moosewala murder probe gets murkier. More gangsters, sharpshooters are now being linked to the killing. While the Delhi police has declared that Lawrence Bishnoi is the mastermind, more breakthroughs have been made in the investigation. Our crack crime correspondent Arvind Oja with these details.
Over 10 days since the murder of Sidhu Moosewala, details are now emerging of how the cold-blooded daylight killing was plotted. And under pressure, Punjab police is now identifying and arrested all those who were involved in the murder conspiracy of the young singer. After the Delhi Police Special Cell confirmed that dreaded gangster Lawrence Bishnoi was the mastermind of the killing, two big arrests could prove to be the biggest breakthrough in the case yet. The first arrest is of Saurabh Mahakal, a shooter who's been arrested by the Pune police. Mahakal is a key member of the Lawrence Bishnoi syndicate, and sources have told India Today that he was in touch with Moosewala shooters. In fact, according to the police, he helped find the assassins and financing for the murder plot and provided all help, including weapons and logistical support to the shooters.
इसमें एक आदमी जो डेफिनेट हमें था कि ये शूटर का बड़ा क्लोज लिंक्ड एसोसिएट है, जिसको शूटर का पता है, जिसको शूटर के साथ जिसने पहले काम किया है, इन्होंने वारदातों को अंजाम दिया है, लॉरेंस के कहने पे इन्होंने काम कर रखा है और वारदातों को अंजाम कर रखा है, तो उसको कल महाराष्ट्र पुलिस ने उनका अपना एक इम्पोर्टेंट केस था लास्ट ईयर का मर्डर केस, उसमें मकोका भी लगा हुआ है, उस केस में अरेस्ट किया।
The other big arrest in the case is of Keshav, a sharpshooter who was involved in the murder conspiracy. Kekra, the gangster who was seen outside Musewala's residence on May 29 and tipped off shooters, was arrested a few days ago. And Keshav was seen with this gangster on the day of the murder. Kekra helped Keshav conduct a recce of Musewala's house in nearby areas on May 29. Keshav is accused of also arranging weapons for the killers, and his associate has also been arrested by the cops.
All these pictures on your screens are the main accused in this particular case. Out of these 8, 2 have been arrested so far. Let's get you those details. Subhash Banuda, one of the shooters, one of the assassins of Sidhu Musewala, is still absconding. Saurav Mahakal was arrested yesterday. So that's a big breakthrough for the police. He's someone who's a history sheeter and has faced cases before as well.
Punjab police is hunting for 6 sharpshooters besides equal number of other suspects who are wanted in singer Sidhu Musewala's murder case. The police is now conducting raids at various places to nab these people who are wanted in the murder case. The raids are being conducted at various places in Punjab besides the neighboring states of Punjab, Maharashtra and Rajasthan.
The Musewala murder files are slowly being unravelled to show the elaborate murder plot hatched by some of the most dreaded gangsters in the country. Bureau Report, India Today.
Lawrence Bishnoi and his gang are not just linked to the Musewala murder, but the probe has led investigators to Mumbai, where Bishnoi is being linked to the death threat that was sent to Salman Khan. India Today has accessed details of Bishnoi's questioning in connection with the Salman Khan threat. Here's what Bishnoi is being grilled about.
May 29. Sidhu Musewala shot dead in broad daylight in Mansa district of Punjab. June 5th. Over 1,600 kilometers away in Mumbai, a death threat issued to superstar Salman Khan. Authorities are now probing if the men behind the Musewala murder conspiracy sent this death threat to Salman and his family. The threat, which reads, "You will meet the same fate as Musewalas," and signed by GB and LB, which cops suspect could stand for Goldie Brar and Lawrence Bishnoi. Gangster Lawrence Bishnoi, who hatched the Musewala murder plot, was grilled over the threat to Salman. A team of the Mumbai Police Crime Branch is in Delhi, gathering all possible leads on the involvement of the Bishnoi gang.
There was earlier definite conspiracy to, harm him, and that is pretty much in media also.
Yeah.
At this stage, this litter thing, I must honestly tell you, has not been focus of our efforts at all. And we have cooperated with Mumbai police. Their crime branch is here. They are interrogating him.
Remember, Lawrence Bishnoi had even publicly threatened Salman back in 2018, and it triggered a rather filmy response from the superstar.
जब भी कोई कमिटमेंट करो तो पॉजिटिव करना, नेगेटिव नहीं करना। और शिकार टाइगर जैसे शिकार कोई नहीं करता, है ना? ये सबको पता है।
And now the Mumbai Crime Branch is also looking into the role of another Bishnoi associate in the probe, Saurabh Mahakal.
Mumbai Crime Branch is investing all possible angles leading to Lawrence Bishnoi gang's involvement in Salman Khan threat letter case. Hence, they have reached Pune to question Saurabh Mahakal. DCP Crime Branch Singram Singh Nishandar is himself present there to find if any leads possible in this case.
The Mumbai police will inquire if he knows about the threat to Salman and if he was involved in any way, as Mahakal is known to be associated with the Lawrence Bishnoi gang. 4 days since the note was found, the Mumbai police are still trying to unearth who is behind the death threat to one of the biggest superstars of the country. Were the deadly gangsters behind Moosewala's killing planning another hit? This time on Salman Khan? Bureau Report, India Today.
This is where I wrap up the Newstrack tonight. For your time and your trust, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Till then, from all of us here, goodbye, good night.
Did you know the Chinese military is developing a weapon capable of destroying Elon Musk's Starlink satellite? Well, yes, a team of Chinese researchers have reportedly published a study calling for anti-satellite capabilities that could disable Elon Musk's Starlink satellites. The tweet reads, and I quote, "A combination of soft and hard kill methods should be adopted to make some Starlink satellites lose their functions and destroy the constellation's operating system." The study is set to call for a combination of soft and hard kill methods that could be used to stop some Starlink satellites from working. However, according to reports, the study could not be confirmed as the official stance of the Chinese military or its government. What is Starlink satellite? Starlink is a satellite constellation system operated by Musk's SpaceX. It provides commercial and military users all over the world with high-speed internet access. With over 2,300 satellites in orbit, it is believed to be indestructible. The reason for this is that the system can continue to function normally even if some satellites are lost. In the next few years, SpaceX hopes to have as many as 12,000 satellites in its Starlink constellation, eventually expanding to 42,000. Why is China worried about Starlink? SpaceX recently signed a contract with the US Defense Department to develop new Starlink-based technology. It includes sensitive instruments which are capable of detecting and tracking hypersonic weapons. The researchers believe that US military drones and stealth fighter jets can strengthen their data by 100 times. As a result, the system poses a potential national security threat for China. Can China deal with it? China already has multiple methods for disabling satellites. These include microwave jammers that can disrupt communications or fry electrical components like powerful millimeter resolution lasers. But researchers say that these measures, which are effective against individual satellites, won't be enough to scuttle Starlink, considering Starlink is composed of thousands of small satellites. And maybe that's why the Chinese military needs a weapon capable enough of destroying Starlink satellite if they want to.
Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today, for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices.
You are watching India
Bharatiya Janata Party's action against two of its spokespersons for the remarks on Prophet Muhammad led to a trail of international outrage, especially from Gulf nations. Now, Arab or Gulf countries condemned the remarks, leading to political and social media offensive from across the Islamic world. Now, Gulf nations, that is also called West Asia, account for 1/5 of the Muslim population across the world. Some of the countries are strategic allies and partners of India. Therefore, Ministry of External Affairs on a damage control mode. Part of BJP's action had more to do with what was happening in the Gulf countries. Now, outrage grew over there. There was a domino effect from one country outraging to the other. Anger amongst local population as also calls to boycott Indian products and let off Indian workers grew. Historically, India shares good relations with many of the Gulf countries. Trade, oil, gas, energy are part of important aspects of bilateral relations between India and many countries in West Asia. Moreover, a lot of Indians work in the Gulf countries. For instance, Indians form 30% of UAE's population. According to the Ministry of External Affairs, around 7.6 million NRIs are living in the Middle East at present, that is West Asia. Remittances from the Indian diaspora is an important part of the Indian economy. Statistics show that in 2021, around $87 billion was received by India as remittances, which constitutes and amounts to 3.1% of India's GDP. In fact, India's business with the Gulf Cooperation Council, that is GCC, which includes Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia and the UAE, stood at $87 billion in 2020-2021. Also, the UAE and Saudi Arabia are India's third and fourth largest trading partners. India has also signed a free trade agreement with the UAE and is in talks for a more comprehensive deal with the GCC, a regional intergovernmental political and economic union. So, the stakes are very high for India. Now, since coming to power, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has kept a special focus on enhancing relations with countries in this very region. Earlier this year, he visited the UAE. It was his fourth visit as Prime Minister to this country. The UAE has also conferred its highest civilian award to Prime Minister Modi, which is Order of Zayed.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices.
You are watching India Today.
Tonight at 9 p.m. on the news today with me, Rajdeep Sardesai. From Maharashtra to Bengal via Delhi, more and more cases are emerging of citizens being arrested for their social media posts that are critical of the ruling establishment. It leads us to our big questions today. Is free speech being selective at times like this? And should offensive messages be criminalized? That's going to be a big talking point on the news today. Also, the presidential polls have been announced for 2022. Kaun banega Rashtrapati? We'll have more on that on the news today.
Sorry.
Presented by Aditya Birla Group, Big in Your Life. Co-presented by Star Health Insurance, the health insurance specialist. Co-presented by JK Tyre Ranger Series, stay wild at heart. Powered by NECC, Sunday ho ya Monday, roz khao ande.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today, your primetime destination news, newsmakers, talking points. The big talking point tonight, arrested for criticizing netas. Are our politicians intolerant of criticism? We're going to try and distinguish free speech, hate speech, and the politics behind it. That debate is coming up tonight. Also, Kaun Banega Rashtrapati? We'll find out what's happening, the inside track on that too. But first, as always, it's time for the 9 headlines at 9.